Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 287, The Birth of Plant-Based Meal Kits with Purple Carrot's Andy Levitt.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talked to Andy Levitt, and he's the founder of the ever so popular Purple Carrot. The truth is, we really weren't sure where this episode was going to go, but he was vibrant and he was honest, and we were able to get all the answers we wanted. Like, how does somebody start a plant-based meal kit company when they aren't even plant-based yet? And how did Andy's Crohn's play into the picture? Who's consuming the vast amount of plant-based meal kits and why? And is Purple Carrot just preaching to the converted? There's also the idea of children and the driving force behind them. So we really wanted to know from him the answers of all these questions, and we seemed to get them. And we wanted to be sure to let you know that this is not an ad in any way, but we did have a chance to taste the meal kit while we were down in Florida. They were easy to make and they were delicious. And I hope that you got a glimpse or all of the pictures on our Instagram stories. We were having a lot of fun posting the before, middle, and after there. So if you saw it, great. And we want to make sure that you're joining the conversation on social media. So check us out at Plant Trainers on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook. And if you are a Purple Carrot person and you are posting pictures, tag us so that we could see what you've made too.
After being diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 2012, Andy began incorporating more plant-based meals into his diet to combat his illness. When his lifestyle change literally altered the course of his disease, Andy left his 20-plus year career in pharmaceuticals and launched Purple Carrot out of his garage in October 2014 with the mission to educate people about the power of food as medicine. He also wanted to introduce consumers to the health and environmental benefits that stem from plant-based eating. Today, the company is recognized as the first and only 100% plant-based meal kit, delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and simple step-by-step guidance for people to make delicious, healthy plant-based meals in 40 minutes or less in the comfort of their own homes. Working to educate consumers on the 20,000 edible plants available today, Purple Carrot creates 6 seasonal meals every week to make vegetables the star of the show without being dull or boring. Since launching 3.5 years ago, Purple Carrot has established itself as a key player in the $2.2 billion, billion-dollar meal kit space, having experienced a staggering 400% growth since 2017. Calling all chefs out there, well, people who need to cook to be able to eat.
We're always getting emails and DMs asking us what to do and what to make. Well, just the other night we were at a friend's house who must have had 45 cookbooks. Now the problem with that is not the hundreds of dollars that she spent on the cookbooks, but the hundreds of dollars that's going to get wasted on buying ingredients that are going to go unused because she'll only use a little bit for this and a little bit for that.
Our e-cookbook, Easy Recipes for Busy Parents, isn't like that. Actually, it's not just for parents, it's for any person who needs to cook and eat, who doesn't want to throw away half the unused ingredients in 6 months' time once they expire or were never used. So this amazing recipe book will not cost you only $7.99. It will save you hundreds of dollars by reusing ingredients and millions of seconds you would have wasted wondering what's for dinner.
And of course, you could purchase multiple copies to give as gifts. So find it now at planttrainers.com/shop or click Easy Recipes for Busy Parents in the show notes.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
Today, I am just so grateful for the sun. I think that the sun, when it shines, it makes people feel happy. If you have a chance to be in it and have it touch your skin, then you feel healthier. But just seeing that shining coming through the window or being outside driving or walking in it is just incredible. And the fact that the sun is actually what keeps this planet alive and going is great. Grateful for it.
So we're back from Florida and it was a great family vacation. And my moment of gratitude I want to give to Shush's grandmother, Irene, who if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we did have her on episode 55 talking about her life story. But this December, she turned 96 years old, and it was just such an amazing opportunity to hang out with her and have conversations with her. And she's so vibrant and amazing. And I'm just grateful to have had that time with her.
Andy Levitt, thank you so much for coming on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
So we wanted to know if you had a moment of gratitude to share with us and the listeners.
Thanks. I'm always grateful for my wife and 4 kids. They are a huge inspiration to me. They give me so much joy every single day. My wife's my biggest fan, and our kids are 9, 7, 5, and 3. And I look at them every day, and it's just hard not to smile and laugh and be so grateful for having them in my life. And they love what I'm doing, and it's really pretty special. So I'm quite grateful for them.
Okay, I gotta ask you. We have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. You have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, but you added on the 5 and the 3. So you know how they say that if you have one kid, having a second is like a different ballpark, but then if you have a third, it's the same as having 2, and 4 are the same as having. Does it change? Like, is it crazy having 4?
Yeah, we went from, I found 0 to 1 was like walking on the moon. It was so overwhelming. We had no idea what we were doing. 1 to 2 was not that big of a deal. 2 to 3 was challenging because they now outnumber you. And our 4th was a surprise, and that was overwhelming. I had just launched my business maybe 6 months earlier, and it was it's a lot with 4 kids. I think that it's all what you make of it and what you get used to. So when I think back how overwhelmed we were with 1, it's laughable now, but for those people out there, your listeners who might have 1 kid, it is a lot when that's all you've got, because that's all you know. So I sort of think of it like when you're in the ocean and you're swimming and you're wet, you're just wet no matter how long you stay in the ocean. So, 4 kids or 3 kids, it's just chaos, but it's fun chaos.
Well, hats off to you and all those people that have more than 2 kids, because I can't imagine having more than 2.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm assuming, were you plant-based when your first child was born, or did that come after?
Yeah, I was, I'm relatively new to the whole plant-based movement. It didn't start for me until January of 2014. So I'm 48 years old. So I was 43-ish at that point in my life, and had been omnivorous my whole life. I grew up and, for most of my life, eating most anything without thinking much about it, really. In 2012, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, kind of out of the blue. It was pretty scary, and had to have emergency surgery. And, afterwards, the surgeon said, you'll be, sort of starting a new lease on life here, and you'll be good as new. And nobody gave me any perspective on maybe diet or any other changes I should think about to ensure ongoing health. I started reading a bit about plant-based, but it seemed just like a foreign concept, and wasn't quite sure how to internalize that and put that into practice.
What brought that out?
So in January of 2014, my wife and I watched a documentary called Forks Over Knives, which I trust a lot of your listeners know of. Yeah. And that was a really transformative moment for me. In fact, at the end of that documentary, I turned to my wife and said, that's what I'm going to do. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm going to start a plant-based meal kit, because more people need to understand about what plant-based can do for their health. And it was really a very, like a real snapshot moment in my mind. I can picture it. And that's where it started. The next day, I quickly turned plant-based pretty much exclusively, and tried to be vegan for about 4 months. Not with the best success. I don't think I felt great. I didn't really know what to eat or how to eat well. I think there's a big difference between, being vegan and eating healthfully. And a lot of what I went through helped inform the way I built out Purple Carrot, which we can talk about. But since then, I have really become somewhat of what we refer to internally as like a balancitarian. which is a bit of a funny word, but it describes a lot of the people who are our customers, where I eat largely plant-based foods, but I'm not vegan today. I am not exclusively plant-based. It's the largest portion of my diet, but I sort of think about everything in moderation, including moderation, and apply that concept largely to the foods that I eat as well.
I like that. Everything in moderation, including moderation, because Dr. Greger talks about, everything in moderation. So you're going to walk into the coffee table every day in moderation, but it lets you think about it a little bit more. So let's back up a little bit. So you had the Crohn's, you had an operation. They didn't really give you any diet and lifestyle. They kind of just said, you're awesome now, get on your way. And is that what happened? Were you just awesome then, or did you deteriorate again?
No, I was pretty awesome back then. It was it was a marked difference from a real state of misery and tremendous discomfort to sort of a middle recovery period post surgery, and starting on a biologic medicine, which was quite helpful to me. I was actually on it for the last 6 years, and I think that was helpful. But as I just sort of observed the way I was living, I was wary that nothing would change if I didn't make any changes myself. And I don't think that most doctors today have a good understanding of nutrition. It's not something that they're trained on in medical school, and it's just not expected of them to share that with their patients. And so again, sort of a year and a half later, when I watched that documentary, it really started to resonate with me, thinking about the idea of food as medicine as compared to drugs as medicine. And so while I never was brave enough to say, let's just stop my medicine altogether and just go all in on food, I think the combination, kind of along the lines of what I was talking about with respect to moderation, some drug, some food choices and adjustment has proven to be a real beneficial path for me with respect to my own health.
Are your children and your wife, are they also balancitarians?
So my wife is largely a pescatarian, if not straight out vegetarian. And she's been that way for about 4 years, and she doesn't eat any meat and occasional fish, but largely vegetarian in nature. Our 9-year-old is really fired up about veganism. It's one of the more proud things that I've seen come out of starting my business is the way our kids internalize what I do. And our oldest son, his name is Oliver, he is really passionate about animals and the environment and gets excited to think about the way he's eating and what that means. And he's understood from the conversations he and I have had together about the positive impact on environmental and humane issues, certainly by adopting a plant-based diet. So he refers to himself a lot as vegan. I can't promise you that he doesn't stray as a 9-year-old, but he certainly has the chops for it to be that way downstream. And I think about his ability to be an influencer among an up-and-coming generation who are going to have a lot of challenges in front of them to fix a lot of the problems that we've all made for their generation.
So if I heard you correctly, you were watching Forks Over Knives and the movie ended and you said to your wife, I want to make meal kits for other people to learn about healthy eating. It wasn't about, I want to change the way I necessarily live my life and consume food. It was more of something you wanted to do for other people. Is that right?
That's correct. I'd spent 20 years of my life before watching that documentary in the pharmaceutical sector. I'd come up through the ranks as a sales rep and roles in marketing and management and strategy for large pharmaceutical companies, and then had my own word of mouth marketing agency for pharmaceutical companies that tapped into the power of consumer recommendations for the products that they were taking to treat chronic health conditions. So it was all about spreading the word about the value of Western medicine. And so to then see this documentary that really flipped that on its head to say, no, it's actually food as medicine. And if you eat certain foods and embrace a plant-based diet, you could reverse or slow the effects of a lot of chronic healthcare conditions. I was so motivated by that it was the catalyst for me to start my own company.
And then I guess you saw the opportunity because veganism or the plant-based movement, they're both, this is where the world is going, right? Like you see more and more people popping up in different areas in Texas, land of the beef, all over the world. We see that people are adopting a plant-based diet. People are becoming more vegan. Did you mention before, did you say that you had lost your job, or did I hear that?
No, I had run an agency, the word of mouth marketing agency, and then I got acquired. And so I was sort of on to my next venture and contemplating what I would do next. And when I saw that documentary, that was the catalyst to say, okay, I've just figured it out. I'm going to go into meal kits. And, at that point, there was really Blue Apron, Plated, and HelloFresh, which are three of the large, well-funded national meal kit players that were on the scene. None of them offered a plant-based option. They did each offer a vegetarian option, but I found that none of them were terribly good or flavorful or that interesting. I looked at the whole opportunity very much through an entrepreneurial lens. There was certainly a sense of how can I help others and do the right thing and make a difference and make meaning, not just, hey, let me be a capitalist and try to form a business here.
Well, you have 4 kids to feed.
I do. And again, there was only 3 when I started it, then all of a sudden the 4th snuck in. But yeah, there are a lot of mouths to feed. So the underpinning behind my entrepreneurial thinking was influenced by a guy named Guy Kawasaki, who wrote a book called Art of the Start. I'd read that book in November of 2006, and it's stuck with me ever since. And one of the first things that Guy talks about in that book is make meaning. And it's all about doing things that are meaningful and, sort of do what you love and the money will follow in a lot of ways. And so I looked at that documentary as a call to arms to say more people need to know about plant-based diets. And I looked at this as a real challenge for me personally and professionally to think about pivoting from the pharmaceutical world to now shifting to a direct consumer e-commerce model of figuring out meal kits and going up against, the biggest players in the market as an undercapitalized, underinformed, just flat out underdog in the race. And I thought it was a great challenge, and knowing far too little, I decided to jump in with both feet.
Well, I think it's great because there are a couple of times where I do wish I was American, but being Canadian, I'm very proud. But that I know of, and I haven't done too much research because what I do with people is I really teach them to cook on their own or to find the resources that they need. And nobody's come up and said, is there a meal plan service here in Canada yet? But I mean, I've called HelloFresh and I've even spoken to their customer service and I'm like, what gives? Why vegetarian? They're like, well, you can get the pasta meals and you could just not put on the cheese. And I'm like, well, then the cheese is still being wasted, right? I'm wasting food, whether I think it's good food or not. It's still food that's being wasted. It's still putting all the animals through the trauma of creating that food in the first place and then for it to be wasted. And then how is my meal complete? Right? How is my meal wonderful? So I'm like, that's not a good option. So I don't know in Canada about any, meal services that are completely vegan, other than some small ones that cater the meals already made to you. So why don't you explain a little bit about what Purple Carrot is, so that if somebody doesn't know?
Sure. So Purple Carrot was the first and remains the only 100% plant-based meal kit company on the market in the United States. I launched the business in October of 2014 from very humble beginnings out of my garage, believe it or not. And we started out as a regional pay-as-you-go service that was just in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. And since then, we have grown to today being one of the premier meal kit companies in the market. We ship nationwide, offering a few different plans, 3 different plans that are all 100% plant-based. There's a quick and easy plan, there's a chef's choice plan, and there's a high protein plan. Those are each $12 per kit, or per meal rather. And in our boxes of 3 different dinners, we provide all of the raw pre-measured ingredients that people need to cook 3 incredible plant-based meals every week. And it's been an honor to be a part of this process. We hire. We've got about 60 full-time people out of our corporate offices in a suburb outside of Boston. And we ship from distribution centers in New Jersey, Chicago, and Las Vegas, and service 100% of the continental United States.
So when we're down in Miami over the December break, we can get our hands on some purple carrots.
And by the time people are listening to this show, we will have already had that.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. We're getting ahead of the game here because we are going to do a little bit of traveling. So what I really want to know is, how well do you know, I'm sure the answer is pretty well, how well do you know your clientele, and are you servicing more of a plant-based clientele or vegan clientele? Where do you see more of the numbers increasing?
It's a great question. When I started the business, people said I was absolutely crazy for starting a vegan meal kit. And I kind of felt I must be onto something. If everyone thinks I'm crazy, that's a good sign. And I always said this was going to be vegan food for non-vegans, because my belief was that most vegans that are out there who are ethical vegans in nature are so motivated by their ethical beliefs that they are going to be loyal to the diet and define themselves largely by those ethical beliefs. Whereas the periodic, vegan sampler kind of person, or those who may dabble and then fall off, are not doing so for ethical reasons, but for either health or fad or curiosity. And that the biggest market were among the people that were omnivorous, who don't already know so much about veganism and how to cook meals and make them taste good. So with that said, I'm really proud of the fact that 82% of our subscribers are omnivorous. And to me, that's a really fantastic data point, because it underscores the point about the inherent curiosity and growing interest in embracing a part-time plant-based diet. And that's really what we're all about. We never preach veganism on our website. We are very encouraging of any and all types of folks who are interested in incorporating our food. And I believe that our culinary team has done such an outstanding job of creating such amazing flavors from a variety of products that are all plant-based, that the consumer doesn't miss the flavors they are used to having in an omnivorous diet. And so for 3 nights a week, we feel like we can give people a really exciting, flavorful, healthful product that they can put on their table, be proud of, enjoy the cooking experience, and know that they're doing well for themselves and for the environment.
I'm going to interrupt this show for a minute because I wanted to tell you that I was thinking about you earlier. Yes, that's right, you, and all the people on Facebook and Instagram who are always asking me about how to make healthy lunches for your kids. The best way for me to do that is not to tell you, but it's to teach you in our school lunch guide a way to making it easy and healthy. It's also about helping parents and their children to come together and decide on healthy lunch items that kids agree to eat, and creating a structure around the lunch making to keep the guesswork out of it, to keep early morning frustrations away, and really to avoid that after-school wasted slop from being a daily ritual. It really doesn't take more than 20 minutes to do together, and it will save you hours later on. I thought of you because I know that you're trying to create easy and healthy lunches your child will actually eat, so you can feel like a rock star parent and your child can actually get the nutrients they need to grow and learn. Would you like to see it? Check it out at planttrainers.com/shop or click the school lunches link in the show notes. And now back to the show. So I'm super, super, super impressed, because one of the highest compliments that Adam and I get in our endurance training and our nutrition training and everything that we do is that we meet people where they are, and we don't criticize people for what choices they might make when they're not actually on the phone with us, or sending us their plans or what they ate or how they ran. We accept people for who they are, and we give them the opportunity to move forward. So essentially, by having that high amount of people who are omnivorous eating your food, that's the highest compliment. And you're doing so much for all of these other movements, because they're like, if this tastes so good and I can make it on my own 3 nights a week, why shouldn't I? Or maybe I could find a 4th night a week where I'm doing it myself from scratch. Or, you know what I mean? There's opportunity for people to yeah, they might go out on the weekends and have whatever they want in a restaurant on the weekends, but maybe, Monday to Friday, maybe they will be, pretty much plant-based or much more vegetarian than they were before. You're giving opportunity. You're not just preaching to the converted. You're
Correct.
actually converting in a really non-threatening way.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, it's our hope that as people start to incorporate our meals, to your point, they get more curious and it becomes almost a gateway drug of sorts that allows them to start saying, gee, let me look at those, bacon and eggs that I was going to have for breakfast this morning, and maybe I should try those overnight oats, or I'll make a salad for lunch instead of having that turkey sandwich. And thinking about different ways they can incorporate plant-based in a very healthful manner. And, your palate will change in a very short period of time, and you'll start craving those healthier options. And, when you do cheat, I think what starts to happen is you don't even enjoy the cheating so much that you want to cheat even less.
So I was recently talking to a group about nutrition, and I had mentioned that I'm plant-based and told them a bit about my background. And I got a question that went something like this. So now that romaine lettuce has been recalled, you have nothing to eat. You can't have lettuce. So what do you eat as somebody who eats plant-based? So I guess a question for you.
You only have carrots left.
Right. There's only carrots now. So what kind of meals do you actually put together? I'm sure that you're putting things that are more substantial than just romaine lettuce.
Yeah, we almost launched a romaine lettuce plan for our customers, but we scrapped that. So no, I think a lot of people perceive vegan food to be tofu centric as well, and we do use tofu, in a maybe 2 or 3 times in a month over the course of those meals, where there's 3 meals in a given week. So you're not going to see so much tofu per se. We use things like jackfruit and tempeh, a lot of beans. We use a great product called Banza pasta, which is a chickpea-based product. So there's a nice protein that comes from the chickpeas in that. But we really try to spread it around with respect to flavors and textures and styles, cultural influences, whether you have an Indian meal, Italian, New American, a Mediterranean, Asian, Mexican. There's really a whole range of flavors that one can enjoy from a Purple Carrot experience. And I think that's what keeps our customers coming back week after week, is that ability to not feel like they're trying, they're having the same old things every week, but rather building on new techniques, new flavors, and quite frankly, making dishes that they would have never made before. So some kind of a jackfruit torta that might sound interesting, and my God, how would I ever make that? Or I'd never know what to do, or I wouldn't even know how to shop for the ingredients. Well, we provide that all very much in a simple and easy to follow fashion for our customers that is going to expand their horizons to now understand there's a lot more to it than just tofu, or in your example, romaine lettuce.
And then we have there's a lot of people out there, a lot of our clients, they're plant-based or they're vegan, but then they have allergies as well. So they might have a nut allergy, or they might need a gluten-free diet because they are celiac or something like that. Does the meal kits cater to that as well?
Yeah, we've explored that and have yet to commit to offering allergy-specific options for our customers. One of my closest friends, his kids are highly allergic to a bunch of things, and I do have some level of empathy and a level of appreciation for what they go through that makes it difficult for them to ever be customers of ours, and for what a lot of families and individuals may go through who have those limitations. And unfortunately, our products are not allergen sensitive, and we couldn't guarantee the integrity of them for those who do have allergies. And as much as everything is sort of individually packed, there's certainly potential for cross-contamination. So we do offer a gluten-free meal with our, we have a TB12 performance meals, which is in partnership with Tom Brady, star quarterback for the New England Patriots. Yep. And those meals are also high in protein and low in soy, low in sugar, and that matches up to the way Tom eats his food each week. And our gluten-free customers tend to pick that plan quite a bit.
So when you were sitting on your couch that day and you watched Forks Over Knives and you said to your wife, this is what I got to do. I've got to make this food accessible for people. Did you think that you were going to be, at 2.2 billion. Did you think that there was going to be a $4 million equity investment from some other companies and that you'd actually have a partnership with Tom Brady? Did that go through your mind?
Yeah, it's really humbling to think about what our entire team has accomplished. It is way, way, way beyond what I thought was possible. I don't, when I started, I just thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I don't think I took the time or gave myself permission to imagine the kind of future that we could have or accomplish and attract the types of people, from employees and customers, as well as external partners like Tom Brady or our friends at Fresh Del Monte, who made that investment in us, as you referenced. It's been a really fabulous journey, and it's nowhere what I thought we could ever do. It's way more. And, we're just really grateful to play our part.
Wow. So
Tom Brady, huh?
Do you have dinner with Tom? You must have dinner with Tom Brady.
Are you even a Patriots fan?
So I'm a very big Patriots fan.
Or you are now.
I grew up in New England, in a town called Providence, Rhode Island. And so as a little kid, I always watched the Patriots. Had a little New England Patriots lamp by my bedside as a kid. So it goes back 40 some odd years that I've liked those guys. And I'd always been a big fan of Tom Brady and what he'd accomplished on the field. We were aware of his peculiar diet and some of the things that he was doing. And when we learned about his endeavor, it's called the TB12 Sports Therapy Center. That's a health and wellness center that's right in the backdrop of where the Patriots play their home football games. They were coming out with this line of vegan snacks in the summer of 2016. And so we reached out, and I met up with a couple of folks in their leadership team and forged a fast friendship and a quick alignment on our mission approach about helping people eat more plant-based for their health and the health of our environment. It aligned well with the TB12 method, which Tom embraces and speaks to as part of why he is so successful at his ripe old age of 41, which focuses on 5 key things, which starts with nutrition. There's muscle pliability, hydration, sleep, and mental acuity. And the importance of nutrition is so high in his list that it became a very natural opportunity for the two groups to come together to create a customized box with Tom's name on it. And it's certainly been a successful part of our company's product line and a great association for us to have. And I think Tom is just an outstanding representative of what one can accomplish embracing a part-time plant-based diet.
Yeah, there's no question. And even if you're not a Patriots fan like we aren't.
I was going to say, could we still air this episode?
Well, yeah. It's really hard not to be a Tom Brady fan and see how successful he's become and how amazing he's doing both on and off the field. And I'm sure you're going to share this podcast interview with him, so we can't wait to hear his feedback. But he's doing amazing things, and it's great that he's working with you on the amazing things that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to work with him.
Yeah. Can I shift back to
Sure.
Oliver for a moment, your 9-year-old? And the reason I wanted to shift back, because you mentioned that he is into this vegan thing, and I wanted to know if there's been any impact for him when it comes to school and how he manages that, or if other people know that he's vegan or trying to be.
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up. We were just talking last night at dinner. A couple days a week, he'll have school lunches, and he was complaining about the school lunches not being vegan and that there's very little to have with chicken nuggets or meatballs and spaghetti, and he's got to sort of eat around a lot of those foods. When he was at summer camp this past summer, I think he felt a little bit challenged by the lack of options that he had, even though there was quite a few, I think, from what I understand. But, I think it just speaks to the power and the potential in a younger generation and the way they internalize opportunity and how pliable their taste buds can be at a relatively young age. And when he starts to make that connection between the food he's eating and the environment that he's going to inherit, I think that becomes really powerful, that he could then be an influencer among his 4th graders, and they can start thinking about it and hopefully telling their older brothers and sisters and the people that they know, and, becoming a real catalyst for change. And that's very exciting for me when I think about the driving force. Part of the driving force behind why I do what I do is thinking about the world that our children will inherit. And it's pretty scary to see these ongoing reports from the UN and so many countries and so many different governing bodies and institutions indicating the dire circumstances that are upon us and the need for us to take global warming so seriously and to make material and immediate changes, or at the risk of substantial peril to the human race. And I don't say that with any sense of hyperbole, and it's so real. And the need for us to make changes is upon us. And hopefully, as people start thinking about more plant-based foods, teaching their kids about that, it becomes a trend and something that people embrace, and it's no longer something on the fringe, but rather far more mainstream. Almost that if you're almost going to be an outcast for not being plant-based, given the challenges that are in front of us.
We have one world, we have one body, and all the outside things people care very deeply about. If the floor is a mess at the school, if they were not going to let their children play in a sandbox that doesn't look like it's been cleaned in a couple of years, we've all got to start making decisions that are going to help us to create a cleaner world, create, a cleaner body. And this is a great way to do it. If you don't know where to start and you can't do it on your own, or you don't have the time to do it, or you need to learn the skills of cooking with different types of foods and different types of ingredients, then this is an amazing, this is, I want our listeners to know we're not getting paid by you to do this. This is not an infomercial for you, but just the idea that this exists for people is just incredible. And the fact that it is going to help bring these movements, the vegan movement, the plant-based movement, what have you, that much further. It's just wonderful to think of, because when I think about the world that my children are going to have their children in, I only want to have positive thoughts. So this helps me stay there.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to hear.
I asked you that because we deal with it as well, and our kids are both plant-based, they're both vegan, and at school they bring their own food every day, but the other kids are eating their pizza and nuggets and hot dogs and all that unhealthy food, even though the school's been sanctioned as a healthy school, which is kind of odd to me. But I'm sure it's a lot worse in the US, where the government funds a lot of the foods that are in school, and the food is not healthy. And our kids are put in a position where they need to make choices to, they want to be the best they can be and eat the best food possible. And at mind you, grade 4 is pretty young to be making these decisions. And it comes down to the parents stepping in and making those decisions with those grade 4 kids or the younger, where they don't have the voice or the leadership ability yet to do it, and approach the schools and push for change, because it's a difficult thing to manage, and kids can be mean.
Our son went through something last year. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, where there was 1 or 2 kids at school that would literally take the deli meat out of their sandwiches and wiggle it in his face and scream meat, 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 meat at him. And these were kids who were supposed to be his friends too. Like, he would play with them one weekend, and then 3 days later they'd be doing this to him. And he just turned around and said, I don't want to play date with that person anymore. They think that they're joking, but Russell was just so much more mature than that, understanding that if this is a type of behavior he's going to do as a joke, then I don't need this person as a friend. And there was a lot of good lessons in there too, because we didn't just call the school screaming and yelling. We waited a bit before we did that. we had him say first, you need to talk to that child and you need to tell him to stop. And then if he doesn't stop, then the next step is you need to speak to the teacher or the principal. You need to, so there were so many different steps of action. Unfortunately, it did get to the point where I did have to send a few emails, but they were nice-ish.
I didn't realize Donald Trump's grandchildren went to school in Canada. Sorry.
So where do you stand on American politics? Yeah, you know what? And okay, presidents aside, we do need to really recognize the true leaders in the world, right? And we need to recognize that when people have power and when people have authority, their actions are being watched very carefully. And if it's okay for an adult, and it doesn't have to be, like a huge influencer, any adult in your family, any teenager, the way that children see other adults behaving is the way that they are going to behave and think it's okay too. We tease and we kibitz. Is that a word? Do people understand that? You know, I know it's a word, but you know, we tease people and we roast tease people and we roast people, but do children understand the dynamics of that, and where's the line between mean and just joking around? And there's truth behind every joke sometimes, right? Or there's hurt behind every joke. So we've really got to make sure that we're setting an example. And I think that, you know, what we're doing here in Plant Trainers and Purple Carrot and all these other amazing guests that we've had on the show, we're all just trying to set an example for other people to make good decisions in their life and make sure that that ripples off into other areas as well.
Our 5-year-old Sam, he loves Superman. I mean, Spider-Man. He loves Superman too, but Spider-Man. And they always say, with great power comes great responsibility. So it's all on us to help shape the future.
Yeah, and we're trying to educate. And I think it's important that our young ones understand that we're here as role models to help them and guide them and do the best we can at making them the best version of themselves. And our schools are really putting the people like us who want to help educate in a tough position when they're offering students food that is not helping their bodies. It's actually slowing them down from learning. It's creating these behaviors that teachers don't want. And it's problematic long term.
So I can actually explain what's happened there, because we are a Healthy Schools, and I do sit on the Parents Committee and the Healthy Schools Committee. So what has happened is that to be able to be considered a healthy school, your lunches that you're offering the children here in our district, at least, needs to be at a certain standard. So they needed to take certain options off the list and add other options onto the list so that it had a certain amount of protein, like under a certain amount of fat. They tried to certain amount of vegetables. They had to round it off to make it. So what they're saying is, look how much better we're doing. But then we have our public health nurse who comes in, and the moment I open my mouth about coming in to do any kind of education, whether it be physical or nutritional with the school, right away I'm cut off and said, we shouldn't have people doing that who only believe in a plant-based diet, because we need to make sure that children understand that milk is okay. And when I say, have you read the research on milk? Do you know what it's doing to people? And she says, that's just not so. It's infuriating. It's fake news. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. Or when I talk about, you know, deli meats and how they're, you know, class 1 carcinogen.
Here we go.
And their response to me is saying, you're just saying that it's not food, and food is food, and you're going to confuse children. So they're putting words in my mouth. It's.
So I didn't mean to get you all riled up.
I'm
sorry.
riled.
Sorry, Andy, and all the listeners.
But you know, when there's accessible food that tastes good, that are great standards, this is what we need. This is what we need more of. We need, you know, the plant-based lunch lady too.
But what I like about what you're doing there, Andy, is you're making it easy for people to experiment and get into more of this lifestyle, and you're educating them through the food that they're actually preparing and putting on their plates. And that's a great way to educate people. And these days, people love convenience, so it all makes sense. When are you coming to Canada?
Yeah, thank you. We're actually thinking about Canada. So no guarantees or timetable to share yet, but
cool.
It would be great to expand there. One thing we are expanding, I will say this at least, is beyond just dinners, which is what we've been known for 4 years. But we've just introduced something we're calling extras, which are breakfast and lunch options as well with our meals. So people can also get plant-based breakfasts or plant-based lunches. They're all super quick to prepare, 5 minutes or less. That makes it even easier to make plant-based foods healthy and accessible.
Cool. So I know that you pretty much went plant-based overnight. So did I. But maybe you could tell people, if they're interested in becoming plant-based, going plant-based, or upping their plant-based game, what's something that they could do to make that quick change?
Yeah, so, you know, I think that obviously my company Purple Carrot is an easy place to start. But, you know, I think it's a lot more about learning and just starting to experiment and taking it slow. As I said earlier in our conversation, I didn't have a great reaction by going, you know, sort of cold turkey, so to speak, so fast and making a complete transition. And I think that a vegan diet is extremely difficult to sustain if you're not thinking about it from an ethical perspective. So for those people who have made that leap, all the power to them. For those people who want to start incorporating plant-based, I think it's about beginning to try a meal, try 2 meals, eat with a friend, go to a restaurant and ask for what's vegan on the menu. Start to read, whether it's the blog on Purple Carrot or a number of blogs that are out there for great content, fabulous podcasts like this one that help educate people. Buy a vegan cookbook and start doing some things at home. And I think people will just be amazed at how many choices are out there. What's been so wonderful to observe over the last several years is the incredible growth of plant-based brands and plant-centric brands that have come to market with a tremendous amount of innovation from a consumer packaged goods perspective that 5 or 10 years ago, walking through it was sort of the weird health food store where you could find tofu, or if you started in a Whole Foods restaurant, supermarket, the number of choices were very, very slim. And now there's such a, massive amount of really cool, innovative products. And whether those are, faux meats from the Impossible Foods and Gardeins and, those types of products to different cheeses that are out there, non-dairy milks, there is just so much that one can do to have really amazing flavors that are not in any way requiring any animal involvement. It gives people a lot of opportunity to start incorporating plant-based into their diet.
Yeah, that's totally awesome stuff. And we love what you're doing with the Purple Carrot, and congratulations on all the success. If people want to reach out to you, where would be the best place for them to connect?
So our website is purplecarrot.com. We've got a strong social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. Purple Carrot XO is our handle on those channels. And we'd love to see you on those sites.
Amazing. And we'll put all that in our show notes at planttrainers.com so people can find you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us today and for everything that you're doing really to help the world. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day.